Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our ESD-Net 2030 Learning Webinar on ESD pedagogies. We're pleased to have you join us. If we could remind everyone as they're joining the meeting to please turn off their microphones, so that we don't have any interruptions. Okay, again, welcome. My name is Mark Mans, the program specialist in the section for Education for Sustainable Development at UNESCO Paris, and I'm pleased to join you and welcome you to our ESD-Net 2030 Learning Webinar. Please note also that today's sessions are being recorded, so for smooth running and to allow a clear communication and engagement, please mute your microphones to start. You're welcome to open your videos, and during times of the sessions today, you may be asked to open your microphone, but for now, please mute your microphones. Next, to welcome you all, I would like to introduce Ms. Jun Morohashi, the Chief of Section on Education for Sustainable Development, the Division of Peace and Sustainable Development at UNESCO Paris. Ms. Morohashi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mark. Hello, everybody. Welcome to ESD-Net 2030 Learning Webinar. This is our second learning webinar following our launch webinar last October, as you may remember. This webinar is an opportunity to strengthen our network, to generate new knowledge and understanding on the latest issues and trends, and also provide peer-to-peer learning opportunities of ESD for 2030. Very quickly to remind you what is ESD-Net 2030. So this network was launched based on the successful experience with the previous Global Action Program GAP network, but also based on the lessons learned. And we would like to aim
We cannot hear you.
Sorry,
we cannot
Jun,
hear you.
You're muted, Jun.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know what happened. Technology is never with us. Can you hear me now?
It's not that what I want to know from you that I was telling you that.
If we could ask colleagues to mute your microphone. Okay, I think it's done. Thank you. So let me once again try to explain what is ESD-Net 2030. So we are trying to enhance knowledge sharing, collaboration, mutual learning, advocacy, monitoring, and evaluation. And together with this, everyone who is connected and beyond, among this very wide range of educational stakeholders. So today's session is situated in this context to promote knowledge sharing and mutual learning. Especially, UNESCO is organizing a series of ESD learning webinars. And this year it's entitled ESD Pedagogy, to highlight and promote innovative practices happening around the globe in ESD. And the interactive learning webinars will focus on
Sorry, Jun, you got muted again. Apologies, everyone.
I don't know what's happening. Somebody is muting me.
Yes, apologies, Jun.
Apologies. Okay, no, that's okay. Sorry for the confusion. But what I would like to say is this series of learning webinars is aligned with the 5 priority areas of action, as you may remember. First one is policy. Second one is learning environment. Third one is about teachers' capacities. Fourth one is about youth engagement. And finally, the last one is local level actions. And in today's session, we are pleased to feature 4 distinct organizations who will be delivering 4 simultaneous workshops covering topics ranging from curriculum design, the intersection of AI, science, technology, and well-being, to integrating experiential learning and embedding ESD and SDG 4 in both formal education and higher education. I hope that all of you who have joined us today, you will be all benefiting from the expertise and experiences presented here today, and will be able to strengthen both your knowledge and also your ability, capacities, and willingness to take action on ESD in your local context. So thank you very, very much to our facilitators today and to all of you who have joined, and wish you a valuable learning session. Over.
You perform the field. I hope this finds the people who also have a heart.
Sorry, could we please ask the people to mute their microphones? Thank you very much, Jun, for highlighting those key important points on ESD-Net and our objectives overall. Now, please allow me to introduce you to our partners and our facilitators who will be leading you through some of the engaging activities in ESD pedagogies in the breakout sessions today. First, I'm pleased to introduce Maria Toro Troconis and Nurita Ahmed from the Association for Learning Design and Education for Sustainable Development. We have Kenneth Lim and his Disciplinary Intuitions team from Singapore's NIE. Then we have Jos Usen from Maastricht University and the Opeduca project, and Ilje van Land and Isabel Tomen from the International Association of Universities. So I'll ask each person or each group to quickly introduce themselves and their overall session today. So Maria and Norita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. It's great to meet you all. I'm Maria Toro Troconis. I'm the founder and director of the Association for Learning Design and Education for Sustainable Development. I'm also currently working for UNICEF Office of Innovation. It's brilliant to see so many people coming from different countries, all interested in our workshop and obviously all the other workshops. In our workshop, we are going to be looking at a framework that we developed with the help from many institutions and organizations. And we look forward to working with you today. Thank you so much. See you later. Over to you, Norita.
Hello. Hi, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Norita Ahmad. I am one of the directors at the Association for Learning Design and Education for Sustainable Development, or ALDES. I'm also currently working as the director at Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning at the American University of Sharjah, where I also teach. I'm a professor of information system and analytics. I would really just grateful to be here and welcome everybody.
Thank you very much, Norita and Maria. It's a pleasure to have you, and we very much look forward to your session today. Next, Kenneth Lim and your team from Disciplinary Intuitions. Kenneth, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, colleagues and friends from all over the world. Yeah, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. Just a very quick word of introduction. I'm with my students today. We are from the National Institute of Education. We are a small team which focuses on the intuitions of students and novices. And today we're going to share some of our work in data science and AI from a maker perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Yes. It's great to see your students engaged and being part of your session. So that's very interesting and how you'll be able to present some of the learning activities that you're currently taking on. Next, Jos. The floor is yours.
Everybody.
Tell us about Opeduca.
Thank you, Mark. It's good to be here. Greetings to all of you around the globe. I hope to today take you on a journey envisioning a holistic and very practical approach to ESD. Presently, I lecture climate change, sustainable development, and transdisciplinary education at Maastricht University. And I originated 20 years ago already a vision that I hope is still most human, not one about ESD competences, whole school approaches, and about problems, but I think one of hope, a joint progress to well-being for all. And it may I hope include all you wish for in ESD. So what I'm going to share with you is not born in the halls of academia. It's not commanded by the ivory towers of policy and politics, but it's one that rose from the fields of practice. It's created by people in culture and welfare, artists and youth workers, teachers, entrepreneurs, parents, and above all, students. So I bid you welcome. I hope we can critically look at this, join and learn together, and to the many out there in a very special month, I say Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joss. Pleasure to have you with us as well. Looking forward to our session. And lastly, from IAU, Iliji and Isabel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here with this esteemed group. Very impressed by the turn up also of participants from all around the world. I always find it funny to look at the countries and places of origin of the participants, and I counted for our session some 143 people who registered from 50 countries from the 5 continents, which is really impressive and very diverse. And I hope we will be able to spark a very constructive conversation about a topic that is has been on the agendas for a long time, but still not implemented fully in universities, i.e. how can transdisciplinarity be implemented in universities much better. So the topic of our session is taking a transdisciplinary approach to teaching based on SDG 4 and ESD at universities. And we've invited 4 speakers, Chuck Hopkins from UNESCO Chair, York University in Canada, and also the lead on SDG 4, quality education in the IAU Global Cluster on HESD. Toshiya Aramaki, who's the Deputy Director, SDGs Promotion Center at Toyo University in Japan. Rosie Latchford, who's a student from the Students Organizing for Sustainability in the UK. And Daiva Penkauskine from Nicolaas Remeres University, where she's Associate Professor at the Faculty of Human and Social Studies and the Institute of Educational Science and Social Work in Lithuania. So we have brought together these different perspectives, and we hope that we can make the case for further engagement with transdisciplinarity, especially when it comes to teaching and learning at the level of universities. Isabel, can you take the floor as well?
Thank you so much, and hello everyone and welcome, and we look forward to welcoming you also in our session on the role of higher education in ESD, and to hear from our experts and you in a bit later. I think I will give it back to UNESCO.
Much Iliji and Isabel, it's great to have you and your entire team that you'll have speaking with you in your session. So pleasure to have you, to have all of you joining us, the four organizations and all their participants and speakers, and we're very well. As Iliji mentioned, we're pleased with the turnout so far. We have almost 200 people joining us now, so there should be some very interesting discussions. I just want to note, please do, yes, people are introducing themselves in the chat, so please do feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. When we break out into the breakout sessions in just a moment, hopefully there'll be smaller groups and you'll be able to engage with some of the different people in the sessions more freely. But please do use the chat to ask questions or to communicate with other participants in the session. So just to remind you now, we're going to be sending you off to the different rooms in just one moment. Each session will be 90 minutes. So the facilitators will have 90 minutes. We'll send a reminder through to everyone when there's about 15 minutes left or 5 minutes left or so on, just to make sure everybody's on track. And then we'll try to bring everybody back for one final round from each of the organizations, or maybe they'll ask one of their participants to step in and say something. So thank you. Just a reminder, if everybody can mute their microphones. Thank you. So with that, you should be automatically directed to the breakout session of your choice when you registered. We'll be monitoring on the back end, so if anybody does get lost, we'll try and help you out. But we wish you all a very productive and interesting breakout session. Thank you once again, and we'll see you all in about 90 minutes. Good luck.
This is wonderful. I think, I don't know exactly how this works when it comes to allocating people to breakout sessions. But if everybody comes as planned, then we will have a full house, as in DICE. But let's see. I really look forward to a very constructive conversation, and I already thank the great speakers who have committed to being with us here to join us. Is it possible to ask for full screen for the presentation? Yes, thank you so much. So a very warm welcome to this particular session on higher education and education for sustainable development. And a particular session where we would really like to focus on the opportunities offered by transdisciplinarity as an approach to teach based on SDG 4 and the ESD dynamics at universities. So transdisciplinarity, something that when I was still a professor of comparative literature, I was dreaming about, but which was not accepted yet in universities. That's some 10 years ago. And I hope there is some advancement there. So we can go to the next slide. So we will be looking here at the, can somebody push the slides, or should I do it from my end? Is it you, Isabel, who's helping with the slides? Okay, so the structure here is really one of engagement. So we will have a short poll first where the participants will be invited to spell out what they expect from this session, so that the speakers who have prepared for this session can still also reorient a little bit what they've promised to speak to, and also see if we can engage fully with your expectations. Then I will present the structure of the session with the major points where we would like to focus, and introduce a little bit where we come from, also as an international association of universities for those who do not know. So there will be a poll at the beginning, there will be another one towards the end, and towards the end I will also try and summarize the main points of the discussions, and will be as inclusive as possible of the different viewpoints from around the world. We will return into the main room at 2:45, so we better get going, because I'm sure there is a lot that we want to hear and learn from. So we can go to the next slide.
Thank you very much, Hillejan. Welcome, everyone. So just to get this session started, we would like to propose you to fill out a small poll, which the question will be, which topics are you most interested in? And we invite you to go for this to the web page Menti.com. So you can type in www.menti.com in your browser, or you can also, if you have your phone at hand, you can just scan this QR code, then you will also land on the page for the poll. And let me just also pull the poll up so you can.
So the aim here is to really better understand what you're expecting when it comes to this session, because there are many voices that will come in, but it would be good for us to also have an opportunity to hear what you would wish this conversation to include. So while you're taking the poll, maybe I can move to the presentation of the IAU. Isabel, can you get back to the slide on the presentation? Who's pushing the presentation here? Are you in the lead, Isabel?
Yes, but I cannot do the poll and the presentation at the same time.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's not
Okay.
possible. So if we invite people to take the poll now, they can see it. Okay. I might put it as well in the chat quickly so people can go directly. Just to get a bit of an idea, I see that some people are already taking the poll, so you would now be able to see student engagement. Well, maybe we can get a few more responses in on that one. And you can see it keeps changing, so maybe we just give people another minute to think a bit about what they would be more interested in and what then later they can also take away from the session. One would be more on the curricular side, the other one would be more on specific key competencies and skills, projects to engage, how to take a strategy with the whole institution approach, or maybe also what I would assume that many of you are interested in all of these or in a few of these. If you're interested in another option that we did not think about, please also let us know, because that would be interesting to see. Okay. Okay, so there's a high interest definitely in the curriculum and student engagement. That's very nice to see as well. So just, yeah, we might get back to this later and have the results also up again. I think we will go back to the presentation. I would hand it back to Hilary if you agree. And you can, and the poll will remain open, so you can also respond at the later stage.
So thank you very much. Just very briefly, in a few minutes, where do we speak from, and why did we as an international association of universities suggest to offer this particular session in the context of the ESD-Net 2030? I use the global voice of higher education. We reach out to 20,000 higher education institutions around the world through the IAU UNESCO World Higher Education Database, also known as WED. You can type it in, wed.net, and you will land on a page where you should see your university appear and see also how the higher education systems are mapped and connected. This database allows us to reach out to universities around the world and to also understand where they engage with SD. The IAU itself was created by UNESCO in 1950, and for over the last 30 years, ever since the Brundtland report was published towards the end of the 80s, the IAU has fostered a lot of strong attention of the leadership of higher education institutions for strong engagement with SD. And we've moved gradually into the institutions much more, working with expert groups, working with UNESCO chairs, working with colleagues from all around the world to actually really foster and transformation through education for sustainable development. Next, please. 4 of the strategic areas of work of the IAU are leading globally engaged universities, internationalization, higher education research for sustainable development, and the digital transformation of higher education. But how we do this, we have a vision for higher education to be connected globally, from one continent to the next, from one institution to the next, from one country to the next. And we wish for these voices to be heard very strongly in order to also influence the transformation of the sector, in order for it to better respond, in particular, to the expectations of the students who are the citizens of the world and will help transform our actions and footprints and activities in order for our world to transform for the better and become more sustainable. So we have developed the IAU into a think tank and a forum for the development of new approaches, for sharing best practices, for undertaking joint action, and for encouraging these across borders. And so we're very pleased to welcome 4 speakers that will actually address these topics in practice and will show how education can make the difference. The background to all this is the academic values that you see on on the screen: ethics and integrity, equity, solidarity, cooperation, global responsibilities of universities towards all communities around the institutions in a country and on a continent, the appreciation of diversity, also the appreciation of diverse knowledge systems that need to be better connected in order to develop quality in learning, research, and outreach, all of that against a background of strong academic freedom and institutional autonomy. So the aim is to contribute in the end to peace and human development and to foster SD. We can go to the next slide, please. So why work with the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals at the level of education at large and higher education in particular? We know that the UN 2030 Agenda, Transforming Our World, and the 17 associated Sustainable Development Goals were developed by governments and not necessarily called higher education to the table, yet universities, since the adoption of the UN Agenda in 2015, have really engaged strongly with both the agenda and the SDGs themselves. We see the universities active in all the different fields from 1 to 17, from peace building to addressing issues of food security, better cities, equitable access to education, quality education, gender balance in everything that we do, but also 14, life below water, 13, climate action, 15, life on land. So all these different dynamics come together and will help transform the world for the better. But how do we do that? Again, it is through a transformative kind of education and also research. Next slide, please. So here we see that the SDGs, which were a bit far away from the whole university enterprise, let's say, it has gradually moved to the centerpiece of everything that a university does. And that's where we advocate very strongly already for some decades, 2 decades, for a whole of institution approach to sustainability. Because a university can engage to provide knowledge, to educate future generations, to work on local level, but at the global level as well, to translate the global goals into specific activities within the context of an institution and way beyond, and to really critically engage as well with the goals that are out there and that we need to address. At the same time, the SDGs themselves, so the universities do influence the way the goals are being addressed, but at the same time, the SDGs themselves transform the universities as well, because it allowed for universities to really look critically at how an institution was operating. And not only in terms of education, not only in terms of research, and not only at the level of the leadership, but also at campus level and in terms of community engagement. All of this against the academic values that we've just enumerated. So it allows to develop new knowledge, new types of collaboration, to rethink also internationalization. And I guess that in particular, Chuck Hopkins from the UNESCO chair on reorienting education at York University will speak also to this connection between internationalization strategies and ESD and HESD. It will facilitate a different kind of exchange on fair and inclusive approaches to different knowledge systems, and thus really trigger a different kind of learning. And that's where transdisciplinarity comes into play. Next slide, please. So we encourage peer-to-peer learning, and that's what this session is all about. We try and monitor trends from around the world, and I'd say try because at times we don't have all the voices at the table. We count on you to really push for those voices to be heard better and to better connect. We foster this whole of institution approach at the leadership level, but the leadership level understood at different levels of the institution, leadership at the institutional level, but leadership at faculty, staff and student levels, so that all these voices within an institution also contribute to the transformation that is needed today in order to address the challenges that we face. So we also provide for training, capacity building, networking services at York University, but in Japan at Toyo University, also with the students organizing for sustainability, or at the level of a university in Lithuania, Mykolas Romeris University. So we do bring these dynamics together and really foster change. Next, please. So what we try and do at the global level, is really give the voice back to the institutions and the individuals working on these different initiatives. We map what is happening, we conduct research, we build capacity, we also offer evaluation tools online and through publications. We develop and share new knowledge through a variety of opportunities, in particular the IAU HESD cluster. So maybe we can go to the next slide. This is one of the initiatives that we launched to really make sure that we would have a global approach to the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is where universities have been invited to champion the SDGs, and one SDG in particular, yet never going to a siloization of the SDGs, of course, but networking them in very constructive ways, yet still taking the lead and offering an opportunity to dig deeper in any of these different SDGs, from Japan to Zimbabwe, from Zimbabwe to Canada, from Canada to France, or from France to any part of the world, because all the different voices are absolutely key to hear, bring to the table, because we are one world, no matter how we look at it in a globalized or deglobalizing. These dynamics are essential. We should keep the constructive collaboration and dialogue open amongst ourselves to look at the challenges we face locally and the impacts at global level. So next slide, please. The topic so we address here is in line with what we've just seen, this collaborative approach. We also see that in universities, there is too often still this siloed approach to disciplines that we study. So a very disciplinary approach to things we study. And yet we strongly believe that it is important to build these transdisciplinary approaches in order for ESD to become a reality at university level, and also to allow for the student community to gain new insight in any of the disciplines they choose to study. You will have a different approach according to where you sit, and it is very constructive to have this dialogue among students, among faculties, among disciplines, and that's what we invite the speakers to address. So I would like now to invite to the table the four speakers, Charles Hopkins, Toshia Aramaki, Rosie Latchford, and Daiva Penkauskiene. And I will invite you to start with a pitch talk on the broader topic, why and how to teach ESD through a transdisciplinary approach. So let's go in order of the slides. I will give the floor to Charles first.
Well, thank you so much. And really, thanks to IAU for organizing this and making it part of this second ESD-Net webinar. I guess I being one of the old guys in ESD, I look back, and the whole concept of ESD was born at UNESCO, coming out of Rio, in a transdisciplinary context. It was UNESCO's first transdisciplinary project, and it was designed that way because, I mean, we do reflect and grow and change, as does sustainable development itself. So, and sustainable development being lodged and embedded in society, it was thought that what we have to do is reflect society, not just reflect education. Right? It had to be complex. It had to be relevant. Had to be meaningful, It had to be meaningful to society, but it also had to be meaningful to educators to try and involve them, because we've been very slow. The education community has been very slow in picking it up. And even though education, or a synonym to education like public understanding, awareness, and so on, that was in every single chapter, all 40 chapters of the first implementation plan in the 90s, education was there. So the idea of transdisciplinarity through the eyes of the community is that a government and society, transdisciplinarity is designed to actually create new, bringing the disciplines together to create something new that would actually change society, whether it's changing legal frameworks or changing the way in which we live, changing the options that are out there. This needed different perspectives. But if you look at it not through the idea from the lens of society and trying to actually implement and create a more sustainable future, if you look at it through the eyes of an educator, then you go back to the competencies, you go back to what UNESCO claims, as the outcomes of a good education, right? And that's what we struggled with, was trying to engage educators who were focused on PISA scores or rankings or whatever to actually say, look, this is what is good as a quality education. UNESCO comes out with things such as critical thinking, self-awareness, problem solving, anticipatory competencies, and all of these are the core of what is a good education. And these are the ones that are best developed within the student by taking part in transdisciplinary, whether it's research or community service, we're engaging in other people. They're learning meaningful skills for the future. And you look at OECD, it's their list of creativity, communication, critical thinking, collaboration, citizenship, that idea of bringing together both ESD and global citizenship education, as UNESCO is proposing now. This is what I think is as really the basis of the why, at any rate. And I know this is just introductory remarks and so on, so I'll stop at that point. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Charles. Very good introduction to this topic. I will now give the floor to Toshiya Aramaki from Toyo University in Japan to also reflect on this very topic.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to use my short slide for introduction. Okay, so thank you for inviting me to have a chance to have a presentation for our university activities. And actually, I'm not the expert of pedagogy. I'm an engineer in environment and science engineering, mainly focusing on such SDG 6 or 13 issues. But for achieving such a sustainable society, focusing only one aspect is not enough. So also in our university, we also have such university-wide activities for students to consider more comprehensively these issues. So today I'd like to introduce a little bit about our university's activity for such SDGs promotion. Okay. Okay, so our university, maybe you may not know. Actually, our university is located in central part, downtown part of Tokyo area. And we were founded in 1887, more than 130 years histories. And one of the important education principles is to tackle social issues proactively. This is our educational principles from our founders. And now we have the 13 faculties and 45 educational programs with diverse academic disciplines, including humanities and social science. Actually, we are one of the largest universities in Japan. We have 5 campuses and more than 30,000 students. Then, because we have such a big, large-scale university, but we consider like a kind of such transdisciplinary university-wide initiative is important. Then we created Charter of Conduct for SDGs in the 2 years ago. This is coming by the strong commitment from by President and Chancellors. And it includes 5 key components of the aspect of education, research, social and global contribution, environment, and diversity and inclusions. Then we also create SDGs Promotion Center, or this is a kind of initiator and supporter for university-wide actions for SDGs. Then I'd like to introduce 3 how can I say, initiatives in under this center. One is the practical exercise of SDGs. Actually, this is a university-wide transdisciplinary course. That means that all students can take this course and add it to their graduation credits. And because we have 5 campuses, this course is related by high flex style for students. Then the important point is that because we have many faculties which have many expertise in different aspects of SDGs, but in this course, we offer not only lecture, but also we request the students to make a kind of specific action plan for SDGs with a group which has a different background, a group of students which has different background. And we also have a kind of the ambassadors students for SDGs. Actually, we have SDGs ambassador students ships. Actually, we support the students or student group who voluntarily undertake activities to promote SDGs on their own initiatives. And also, what we also start now about the SDGs ambassador program for international students or for outstanding students with key interest in SDGs and related fields, or we support scholarship package with tuition waiver or tuition fee waiver and accommodation. And we expect them to do some actions for SDGs by educating and leading our university community with such SDGs ambassadors. So it covers whole university. Now we will start from next month. So that's all from my short introductions from our university activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Can I register for a scholarship package?
If you want.
The university is fantastic. So you already have 2 great universities where you can consider going, York University or Toyo, to really benefit from these opportunities for transdisciplinary approaches to teaching. So one from North America, the other one from Japan. And now we move to a student perspective, Rosie Latchford, from an organization that I invite you all to really look up, the Students Organizing for Sustainability. Really interesting to see how this is a movement that started in the UK and has grown exponentially to the global level. So Rosie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's really good to be here and hear everyone's perspectives. I'll just share my screen. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
There we go. That should be it. Okay, so before I jump in, I just wanted to give a quick overview of who we are as an organisation, as I think we're slightly different from the other people here today representing the different institutions. So I'm coming from Students Organising for Sustainability. We're a student-led charity that really believes education can bring about change to tackle the injustices and unsustainability of our world. We see the power and potential in students and young people to be at the forefront of that change. So in all of our programmes, we work alongside them as equal partners in the sustainability journey. We have 3 main mission aims that we work towards by delivering a really varied range of programmes that span across different levels of society. So to talk about the why, Education for Sustainable Development calls for learners not just to learn about sustainability, but to learn for sustainability. And here we really believe it's not just about what you learn, but how you learn, to ensure students can develop the knowledge and understanding they need to tackle the greatest challenges of our time and ensure that we have that better future for all generations. So to learn for sustainability, we really need to tackle unsustainable thinking practices. And taking a transdisciplinary approach can actively help us do this. So our understanding of the climate crisis as an organisation sees that siloed and linear thinking has actively contributed to the problems that we're facing now. And we really need to shift our thinking to understand that people, Earth, our societies and economies are all deeply interdependent and connected. So ESD can really equip us to take this holistic and sustainable lens to our relations to the world. But to do so, it really does need to be transdisciplinary. To fully respect and embed the interconnectedness of our world, we need to break down subject silos and ensure that the principles of sustainability are at the heart of all learning. To scale it back for a little bit and just talk about why we should teach ESD in general, and we need to ensure students are developing not only a knowledge and awareness of the situation we're in, but the skills and competencies to address it. Otherwise, we run the risk of overwhelming students with concerns about the climate crisis and social injustice, and this can lead to eco-anxiety. ESD equips students to tackle the climate crisis, understand it, and then move forward to build that better world. We also know that students want to learn about sustainability, and they want this to happen in a way that's relevant to their programs of study, so they can apply their learning meaningfully to their personal and professional lives. We can see here from some research that we've done that 84% of students want to see sustainable development actively incorporated and promoted throughout their courses. And this figure is just taken from one survey that we've run, but we've run this survey over 10 years. And the evidence suggests that the student demand for sustainability is really significant, and it's actually grown over those past 10 years. And so we know that the student demand is there as well. To talk about the how. So students organising for sustainability works on many different levels, from the institutional, national, global and individual. And we work in partnership to create change at all levels. And we understand that we need to mobilise and network in order to do this really effectively and meaningfully. We tackle the informal, formal and subliminal curriculum, again, really understanding that change needs to happen, not only interdisciplinary, but at all levels of institution and education too. So I think the best way to understand or to explain how we approach this is to give a few examples of the programs that we run. So we run a program called Green Impact, which tackles the informal curriculum, and we work with universities and organizations across Europe and to embed sustainability into their practices and focus on behavioural and institutional change with personalised toolkits for different universities and institutions. We also run a programme called Responsible Futures that tackles actually formal, informal and subliminal curriculums, which is a really supported change programme and accreditation mark to work with universities to embed sustainability across all aspects of student learning. And here we really empower students to help with this as well as they audit universities at the end of the programme. And then we work with the subliminal curriculum and we support lots of different youth-led campaigns. Firstly, one called Teach the Future, which operates within the UK to get climate education included into the national curriculums. And we also support a youth-led campaign called Mock COP, which campaigns internationally to secure climate education commitments in international spaces, such as the COP negotiations. And I'll also put my email in the chat if anyone wants to follow up with me on any of this. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Rosie. This is really very interesting because many people ask and get in touch with Isabelle Thoman or myself to understand how students can engage in a meaningful way, but also in a concerted way so that it's not isolated issues or that they can work on, but to really join a movement and learn also how to do this better. So thank you. There will be many questions about this, I'm sure. So Daiva Penkowski, I would like to give you the floor. You're Associate Professor at the Faculty of Human and Social Studies, the Institute of Educational Educational Science and Social Work at Mykolas Romeros University. Your rector is now a new board member also on the IU board, which is fantastic, and a very great supporter of this work. So I would like to give you the floor to address in a few minutes also initially this broad topic of why and how to teach ESD through a transdisciplinary lens.
Hello to everyone, and thank you for inviting me to share our own practice. And I share my screen as well in a minute. Okay, I see now it's okay. So thinking about how to present this really broad topic, I saw that it is a very difficult task to do in a very short time. So I decided to cover just maybe to respond to interdisciplinarity and teaching and learning a little bit from the global perspective. So in order to make difference, if you want to make difference in this area, I think that we have to not to talk only about teaching and learning, even being teachers ourselves, but also to think, you know, a little bit in more complex way. So all those levels, institutional, curriculum level, subject classroom level, professional community levels, they all have to be in place and work in coherence with each other. And I will explain shortly what I mean. What it means in our institution at our university, this institutional policy level. So our university has sustainable action strategy for ESD and for sustainable development. And how we observe, you know, how we're doing. So we observe it by increasing percentage of community involvement in different kinds of sustainable activities. Also,
you may
budget.
wish to push your slides to the next one because you have beautiful slides. They don't see it full screen.
Or can you see them now?
I can see them on the side, but if you can go to the next slide.
Okay, can you see it? I am moving slides. No?
I don't see it, but we see them on the side, so that's
okay.
Okay.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah,
I will
here it works. Now it works.
Yeah.
Now it works.
Okay, I'm very sorry. I don't know what happens, but to save time, I will do it like this. So I want just to point out that all different levels, they have to be in place, and working on institutional policy level. So we can also observe how we're doing by all those aspects that I'm presenting here, about increasing percentage of budget allocation, community involvement, about increasing number of interdisciplinary research, scientific events and publications, also improvement of infrastructure and nature environment, and all those things that are listed in the slide. So we have already qualitative and quantitative indicators to measure it, how we're doing. If we talk about another level, curriculum or program level, so we can observe how we're doing revising our programs and how SDG goals are reflected in goals and objectives, in requirements for students' competencies to be developed, and also how many and what kind of interdisciplinary programs, optional and selective, we do have in our university. And also what kind of curriculum implementation, different kinds of forms of studies we can offer. Talking about classroom or subject as a personal level, so we also can observe in our subject descriptions about integration of cross-cutting topics into content, and also making connection with hot issues in a real world and real time. And also including students into social projects, actions, social events, different kinds of practices. I myself consider to be interdisciplinary teacher because I teach interdisciplinary courses, and one of the courses is development of critical thinking as optional course for different subjects, for different course levels. And the idea is to promote concept of criticality and value of it in a modern world, and to think critically about ourselves, others, and the world. And also we develop critical thinking skills through a variety of interactive methods and strategies. And also we provide opportunities to apply and demonstrate critical thinking in a specific professional settings, and also evaluate oneself how we're doing. And if we're talking about professional community as teachers community and interpersonal level, so at our university, we have a lot of place for exchange of professional experience during different events and via different forms. We also practice mutual learning activities, workshops, seminars, and training to each other. I myself also have courses for my colleagues, for university teachers, small courses to introduce how I teach, how I do, how I promote all those things that I'm talking about. And also another form of it is peer teaching. So the peer teaching is two teachers from different disciplines, from different subjects. They come together to teach the same group of teachers or students. So it is not very, not very often practiced, but we would like to develop it more. But still it is and it exists. What kind of hazards of approaching SDG in higher education I observe? So to stay a little bit in more rhetoric level, superficial level, lack of updated knowledge on behalf of professional staff, lack of balance between institutional, interpersonal, and personal levels, lack of practicing, and lack of sharing among colleagues. That's all what I wanted to show. Okay, and I stop sharing.
Excellent. Thank you so much to all four speakers. I think you've touched on actually the broader topic, but also the underlying questions. You showed how inter and transdisciplinarity offer new opportunities for ESD. You also provided some insight into the challenges, but that's a point where I would like to actually get back to. And also which are the obstacles that you saw, but also the opportunities on how to move on that. When I look at what you have presented, Chuck, you've also given a historical perspective on this movement on transdisciplinarity. Everybody has made the case for the importance of such an approach, and yet it is not something that is globally accepted. Could you elaborate a bit on that? And from where you sit, you've been traveling the world, you've advocated for this transformative approach to education in order to really trigger quality education. You've really insisted on the importance of developing this critical thinking, and it's beautiful to see that this comes back in the presentation from Daiva. Can you maybe try and explain why transdisciplinarity still is not a movement that is embraced globally?
Are you referring to me, Kelly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Referring to me?
Yeah, it's you, Charles, yes.
Sorry. Yeah, there's just not an easy flow between government and higher education. And I think the blame can go on both sides. Higher education we are into education, not in indoctrination. So there is that questioning of are we simply implementers of sustainable development? Or where does academic freedom, where does criticism, critical thinking fit into it? So there isn't a sort of an easy pathway, nor does the government really take advantage of who we are. I mean, we have a responsibility. We have academic freedom. We can be the think tank. We do have the respect of the general public, etc. We have some of the brightest minds, not only in the country, but linked all around the world where we could be doing it. Yet the structure really isn't there. The second big thing is trying to comprehend what is sustainable development. And so how does education sort of work on it? How are structures organized in disciplinary ways in our universities? That's just one of the problems. The thing of trying to co-publish with someone in another discipline really doesn't help you. Promotion procedures. You know, and now with COVID, with people not even showing up on campus most of the time, you know, come in, teach your lesson and go, the structures just really are not there. So we have to rethink that. The idea of who takes a lead? How do we fund transdisciplinary projects? Because even the research funding really isn't set up for that. So somehow, I think the clarity of what higher education can do, and I know you've been struggling with this for 20 years at IAU, trying to bring this message forward, always trying to link through UNESCO and beyond, you know, institutionally as IAU, trying to engage and promote what we can do, and at the same time trying to get universities to step up, to bring about this change. And I'll close just with saying, at our own university at York, we are trying to take on the whole institution approach, not just the teaching and the research and community service, but the way in which we operate, trying to change the whole culture of the institution. And if we have time later on, I can talk about how it is working in our institute, in our internationalization programs and so on. So what this has done, it's questioning the purpose of higher education in parallel with UNESCO's questioning you know, the purpose of education, which UNESCO does every 25 years or so. And that, I think, is one of the great benefits of moving down this path of how can a university really become engaged in a meaningful way, improve the education of our students, which is our responsibility, and at the same time contribute to society. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, really. So there's a lot to be done still. There's still many barriers. We have to break them down. Not easy, because they're really nailed to the wall. They're very strong, these barriers, but they can be challenged. And I think Catherine Cole just put also in the chat. The chat is, by the way, extremely rich, so I invite everybody to go look what's there. But Catherine Cole just mentioned and shared a link to the Futures of Education initiative at UNESCO, to a report that I invite all of you to read, because it is very inspirational and has many of these conversations embedded. Once in the 25 years, you say, Charles, a bit more often, luckily. But we see that we need all these voices in as well. So I would like to still give 2 minutes to the 3 other speakers each before we go to the room, because there is all this expertise in the room, and I really want to give the participants the floor as well. Toshia, you had something that really I put a question mark here, a very interesting complex. What is a high flex style of study for students? Is this the way in which you would define this opportunity for a transdisciplinary approach to the learning experiment? Maybe you can start there. 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Actually, we have such transdisciplinary course opened for the students from 5 different campuses. So then maybe main campus students can join face-to-face sessions, but the other campus students cannot join face-to-face. So we use such high flex with face-to-face with online, then have a small lecture, short lecture, or even group discussions, or kind of the assignments, or we have, or all my students also can join. We then discuss with face-to-face students. That is, we said hybrid style. And we just start in this transdisciplinary course. Then we can invite the students from the different background. In in the main campus, we have mainly humanity and social science students, but in the other campus, we have the engineering students, life science students. So we can invite the students to join this transdisciplinary course. That is
very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. So also using the digital transformation that has received an incredible boost since the beginning of the pandemic, obviously, in a very and most constructive way. Very interesting. You have also, Rosie, a concept that I found fascinating: subliminal curriculum. What is that?
So there's the formal, informal, and subliminal curriculum. And the subliminal curriculum is kind of like the norms, values, and wider structures that influence what we deem as appropriate to teach people about an education and what's expected. So the way we try to tackle the subliminal curriculum is really to work with students and understand what they're passionate about and the change they want to see, and empower them to do that. So this is how we fed into things like our mock-up campaign and our Teach the Future campaign. And this subliminal curriculum is sort of tackled and changed through various different levels. So we have youth-led campaigns with sort of youth peer-to-peer work. And so they talk about why they're passionate about sustainable development and the changes they want to see. But then we see them try and make that wider systems and institutional change. So that's securing commitments from domestic education policies to sort of get the expectation of climate education and education for sustainable development written into government. So those assumptions on what we should be teaching and how we should be teaching it are subliminally there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, but it's a beautiful context and description and concept. That's the word I was looking for in transforming the kind of education. Maybe I will give the floor first to Daiva, and to the audience, but maybe later we can also look at these, the connections between the work led by students and the rest of the work done inside the institution, how it connects well in order for these different dynamics to really make the difference moving into the future. But first, Daiva, you insisted a lot about on the importance of transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary approaches inside an institution to foster critical thinking. And you said that there were measures in place at MRU, Nicolas Romero's University, to critically assess the impact of such an approach. Can you say a little bit more about these measure tools or measurements opportunities to really see, because that's always what's asked. So what next? How do we know we have had and made an impact?
Okay, so it's easy to measure by quantity, So we say, how many publications or research work or interdisciplinary courses we have developed, So it is easy. But coming back to the first presenter that I liked very much, Charles Hopkins, about, how we really know how we're doing this qualitative aspect is quite difficult. And it is easy. I said it is not easy, but it's possible to do, just to do this mutual peer learning approach and to practice is as wide as possible among ourselves and talk and discuss how we're doing, not only just do this, how to say, regular work and look for different measures and different indicators to prove what we're doing. It is also very important, but also I am really very worried about this superficiality of this topic, not to be, it's very hard to say, taken very flat. But to go deeper and to understand what that Charles said, that we have to understand what the concept means, what kind of meaning we're putting into it, and to go deeper and deeper into it and to understand what is worth, why we're doing it, what is important, what it brings for us. why we're not doing something else. It is really, really very important. And I think that it is the mission of higher education as well.
Yes, to have these conversations already, because when you start a conversation, obviously, then you have the opportunity to bring more people on board, share perspectives and this dynamic. It's already 2:10. We have until 2:30, and at 2:45, we have to return to the main room. So these are unfortunately usually more appetizers for more conversation to come. But I hope that also you have the opportunity in the chat to connect to each other. And I would like to open the floor to questions. So if I can see whether the questions would be, if I can go by a raise of hands, maybe at the bottom of the bar on your screen, normally you should have the possibility to raise your virtual hand so I can give you the floor. Do I see? Yes, Angelika Neudecker. Do you have to unmute yourself to speak?
Oh, the general mistake, sorry. Okay, artificial intelligence is right now a huge topic. It gets a lot of attention, resources at higher education is ChatGPT. You all know these discussions. I have the question, how can the whole institute approach and the road of IE and the discussion of IE somehow come together and go maybe a road together, develop an idea together? And now I have the question to you as experts and working long in this field. Do you see that the IE direction is kind of a completely different one? Or do you see like a synthesis of the whole institution approach and where IE might, the discussion might go to? Thank you so much.
Okay, I will take 4 questions in one go, otherwise we start responding and we cannot go further. So Prabin Chand.
Thank you. My question is that I am representing Nepal, which is still developing and ongoing process. Due to the unaccess and low quality on higher education, today many students are going foreign countries for their career. Now, in the context of SDG, we are challenged to get SDG targets and achievement in 2030. But countries like Nepal still in developing basic needs and requires. Then how really SDG goals and targets fulfill the requires without developing countries' education in comparison to developed countries?
Very good question. Thank you, Prabin Chand, for this question from Nepal. I will take 2 other questions before I give the floor to the speakers. So there was a question on AI and ESD and the link between the two, and a question about what do we do with the difference of opportunities to engage actually with the SDGs, and how do we bring all the voices on board. I do not see a burning question on the screen. I will give the floor then to Daiva, maybe to start. If you have something you would like to say about those 2 questions, or only one of them. 1 minute.
I have nothing to say about artificial intelligence because we are not using it very right now, and we are just discussing, it is under discussion, how we can do it purposefully. and meaningfully. And coming back to the on involvement, so as I said, on all those levels in my presentation, there are different ways to involve community. As for the teachers, so I really believe in this mutual learning and peer learning, and of course peer teaching. You know, this really enriches us, and we can broaden our horizons as well, and we can better serve our students. And also I really believe in very in big cooperation possibilities in different formal, non-formal, informal activities together with students, participating, let's say, in the same projects, participating, involving them in the research, you know, as we are already doing, you know, and learning and teaching and learning in the different ways and forms. So our institution gives such possibility.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will not apply the gender balance now. I will start to give the floor to Rosie first. On the student perspectives, maybe.
Yeah. Apologies, I won't be touching on AI either, as that's not really something that we work with. But I think it was a really interesting question, Preben, and thank you for bringing it up. I think for us to really effectively incorporate and bring about education for sustainable development in universities, we need to think about the problems that have led us here. And that is, like, you know, unequal and hierarchical international university systems. So I think we really need to think about how we resource share, network build, and bring a lot of people on board and to support with this transition. So I think recognizing different levels of funding and different capacities and different abilities for different universities to engage, building international networks of both students and universities, and thinking about how we can effectively like resource share and share a lot of information as well is something really useful. So we have like a specific program like Responsible Futures, I think I mentioned before, which brings on board students and academics to really create this institutional change towards ESD. And if we could think about how we can internationalize that and make sure that it's affordable for everyone to access. So that might be thinking about how we can get, you know, international funding or support or reach to bring that to universities that might otherwise not have the opportunity to get it and get that individual help. Yeah, would be something to think about. So thank you for that question.
That's a very important one. And at the International Association of Universities, we work with SOS UK, as you know, to try and find these opportunities to scale up the work of SOS UK with very strong support to student initiatives, which could be a response also to Nepal. So I'm very sorry, Angelica, that there's yet no answer to your question, but I may say something about the IU later. Before I give the floor to Charles and to Shia, there's another question coming in from Alejandro Velasco. So if you can ask your question, that can be taken on board as well at the same time.
Yes, thank you very much. My question is in order of the integration of the ESD in universities. And in my perspective, at least in the context of Latin American universities, there is a competition between the commitment of the universities to contribute to the SDGs and the integration of the ESD, because they had an agenda for a couple of years ago, and now to change a new agenda to integrate ESD even is recognized as a dynamizer, facilitator of the driver to challenge the older SDGs is a problem that are struggle now the universities. And my question is how to deal with this competition between SDGs and ESD.
Interesting. Interesting that you see them in competition. So very, very good. That will be a good question to address. I see another question coming in from Marc Trudeau. La parole est à vous.
Merci, but I speak only a tiny bit of French. Yeah, my question is as an organizational coach, one of the principles that we hold dear is leaders go first. So I found the key competencies for sustainability that we're trying to impart upon our students to be really interesting, because they match the competencies that industry is finding to be most important to be effective in today's complex world. So with in the spirit of leaders go first, how has the education community been engaging the faculty, the administration to develop and embrace, or perhaps even express their vulnerabilities and fears around these key competencies for themselves in managing this change?
Excellent question. So Charles, would you like to take it? And then Toshia as well. I start with Charles.
Maybe I could just bounce very quickly on each of the questions. Regarding AI, I think AI is extremely important for us because of one of the big issues is, as we try to come up with solutions, we can't see the impact and what will be what will fight back the current winners in the situation. How will they react, and so on. So I think the power of AI to be able to sort of run programs and see what our impact of our solutions would be. But AI, like a number of others, what we often do is to try and engage and say, are you at all relevant for the future of the world? And they come forward and show how, look, hey, we really are important. Do you know what we do? And so on, and work ways of bringing them in. I think regarding ESD and the comment from Nepal, we have to sort out what is the role of government and in their commitment to the SDGs on a global perspective, and what is the role of the university. I don't think the universities were there to respond to the SDGs and so on, but I think what we really have to do is to look local and what is really relevant for our own students. And so a lot of the work that we're trying to do to sort it out, that may also be in a contact with Vesta, or Alejandro from Vecta, trying to figure out what is really meaningful to the students, and also with Mark, we need to have in-service programs for faculty where we engage, talk to them in respectful ways, but what do we find are the real issues? And then the faculty, some training in identifying what are the concerns, the phenomena, the issues that they can use in their teaching that will enhance the outcomes of their coursework, and at the same time are general enough that are transferable for them in future for their own lives. Because you can take any one of the SDGs and really delve down into something, but at the university world, what we're trying to do is to build these perceptions, attitudes, contexts, and so on, and into the broader aspect. So the last thing with AI too is all the work that's being done and led by UNESCO on values, ethics, and so on. I think that would be a very interesting way of engaging AI people in the talk of paralleling Earth Charter and blending in with Earth Charter and so on. Thank you. Sorry.
Yes, excellent. Thank you. I think also something we can put in the pot here is for Nepal to also look, for instance, when it comes to connecting the unconnected with the work of the United Nations universities and the RCE community, the regional centers of expertise. There is a strong one in Nepal. There are UNESCO chairs as well. There is work being done by universities in the region. Connecting the unconnected is absolutely important and can be a support to overcome maybe this divide between government support or non-support, the role of universities not knowing where to go. On AI, there is also quite a bit of work done there on the connection between AI and the work on ESD at UNESCO level in the many of the discussions. Similarly, at the IAU, we have a working group working on the support mechanisms provided by artificial intelligence to address any of the issues in higher education, in particular also in support of a stronger engagement with the SDGs. So we may have a follow-up conversation on that. The topic that Marc Trudeau brought to the table as well is these key competencies that are required and how to then train, if I understood your question correctly, train the faculty, the administration, the leadership into these new competencies that are required. There's quite a bit of work being done on capacity building, but something that sometimes is still too expensive to actually be able to benefit from. So it will be interesting, maybe also there in a follow-up conversation, to look at these organization coaches and what they can support this mechanism with, because there is a high demand for training, retraining, scaling up the activities. Toshia, how would you like to respond to these diverse questions, and which one would you like to pick?
Okay, I like to add two inputs for these questions. First one is about the question from Nepal. Actually, I have experience to work in the Southeast Asian universities. Then at the time, I feel that in the not only faculty but also students have much more interest to learn about the subjects which directly link to their future jobs. Then they don't want to learn about such general knowledge or general, how can I say, like liberal arts issues. But actually, for considering such ESD or SDGs issues, such liberal education is much more important, I feel. So maybe for include, how can I say, extending such or maybe liberal arts or curriculum, including ESD or SDG issues, maybe university or institutional-wide approach is important, I feel, even in such developing countries. That is one input. And another input is about ESD competition issues. Actually, yesterday, we have the kind of the symposium among the Japanese universities who are discussing about the SDGs issues. Then in there, we also have a discussion about such SDGs competition issues. Then one of the, how can I say, claim is that because each institute or university has different characteristics, or even each region have different characteristics. So the activity or goal to make action for SDGs is different according to such universities or regional characteristics. So, but maybe such SDG competition sometimes, can say, consider to evaluate each institution as maybe single scale. So I think, or maybe we may need to consider how we, how can I say, such evaluate such SDGs activities from such if we have such ESD competitions. Okay, thank you for it. That's the input from me. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very good. All these questions would merit another webinar in itself anyway. So it's interesting because these are very important questions. Also, the topic that you introduced, the importance of all the arts when it comes to the SDGs, and in particular, the strong support for for liberal arts education, for the social sciences, humanities when it comes to addressing these issues. And this is already getting old conversation about moving away from skills education only to competence education, competence-based education, which is much broader, and also moving away from the government-led discourse on STEM futures and going to STEAM. So take the STEM, but add an E at the beginning for education and a little and big A in the middle before mathematics and between engineering and mathematics, which is the arts. So if we go and move to esteem, we have better esteem for the kind of quality education that we will be able to provide the students with and society at large. So let's make that case everywhere, that esteem much better than STEM and competencies much richer than skills-based education that is looking at the world of work only. Of course, universities need to also look at the world of work, but SD and the SDGs and the ESD opportunities will be the way forward and will help transform also the world of work, transform it in order to not have the detrimental impacts that it too often still has, but transform the sector, which is not a sector, but the broad world of the businesses, the world of work, which are so important for everyone to find its feet in our societies, yet also very important to look at how and the what and what is being provided and how we can not tailor to the jobs of today, but develop the kind of citizens educated with the critical thinking and competencies in a very broad range of disciplines in order to become and be actually the change agents of today and tomorrow for even later even. Because the world, as we know, cannot wait. They're waiting for these agents of change everywhere in the world. So we need to connect them better. And these kinds of conversations can actually help foster and create that. I didn't see other questions here on screen, and I would like to give Isabel the opportunity to maybe quickly go to the next poll as well. For further engagement of everyone. And then I will have to summarize quickly because we will be kicked out of this room technically and not even artificially, but by somebody pushing a button and push us back to return into the main room. So I know there is much more we could have discussed, and we will in subsequent sessions as well. Maybe Isabel can put in the chat the link to our webinar series, where you will see some 65 webinars on many different topics touching on the future of higher education, where you're invited to watch the recorded webinars, but also engage into future webinars that are on offer. They're free, available to all. And certainly also we would be very pleased to help you engage with them and connect with universities from around the world. So please do consider the IU as a go-to place also for new and innovative connectivity opportunities. So what's the most important when teaching ESD and SDGs in HE in higher education? That's the Menti poll that Isabel prepared for you. Do you want to say something else about that, Isabel?
Yes, I just invite you to add, if you haven't done so. So this was already open and some of you have already added some keywords there. So maybe after our discussion just now, you want to add to it to remain, work also use digital tools. I think that's what I've been hearing. And I think there's a lot of tools with AI that we're new to using, but there were some really good ones in the chat. There were some questions of is ESD and SDGs, is that a contrast? Are they complementary? I think that also depends a bit on the understanding. Adaptability, global learning, diversity. I think we have a lot of very, very good points there, and we have a very diverse group from all around the world in this room here today. So I think, yeah, it's only natural that we have very different approaches. So just to bring the discussion together in these last 12 minutes of our workshop, I also invite you to use the chat really to stress some things that you would consider important and that you would like to share with this group right now. And I don't know if Lidge, if you would like to then bring.
Yeah, I see that maybe the speakers want to react to this. Maybe I can give each of the speakers another 1 minute to just react to what you see move. We see in the middle diversity. So diversity probably of approaches, diversity of opportunities, the richness of diversity, the importance of this diversity in order to not have a one-sided view on the global goals that we face, but rather a co-construction and a transformative learning process towards co-construction of new realities. Can I give the floor maybe to the 3 speakers, and let me start for gender equity with men this time, and then Toshia Aramaki, would you like to react to this word cloud?
Okay, thank you very much. Anyway, so I just also put the diversity is important, I feel. Actually, we are transdisciplinary initiatives, these are also concerning diversity issues. But now also I feel that, or we feel that, because the joining the students for such initiatives is very much limited. How to extend to many other students in the from the SDGs activity is very much now important for us now. So that is not our current important point issues for us. Thank you very much.
Okay, so fair and inclusive internationalization somehow, no? And new ways of looking at internationalization. Chuck, would you like to react to the word cloud?
Yeah. I'd like to look at the idea of diversity. Of course, diversity and transdisciplinarity, they really fit so beautifully together. But a diversity of where our perspectives, our values, ethics, and so on are coming from, because the ones that have got us here are certainly not exactly the ones that we need to get us out of here, right? And but a diversity as to where insight should come from. And I love the idea of the ecological handprint, I think, because it also brings in hope. But the idea behind, those who don't know about it, is a little girl in India in grade 4 was being taught about her ecological footprint. And the little girl said, but I have hands, I can do something about my footprint. And so the teacher recognized the power of the analogy, went to a large non-government organization, the Center for Environmental Education in India, who took the idea, built on it, went and worked with their Ministry of Environment, and now this idea of the ecological handprint being that positive idea that people are working on, and the idea that came from a little girl in grade 4, whereas the ecological handprint came from the Dr. Bill Rees at the University of British Columbia. Both ends, but working together in unity. So the diversity of where the ideas come from is so important, and the diversity of linking together and working together. Otherwise, the handprint would never have moved forward. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Then maybe Rosie, you want to react also to the word cloud?
Yeah, I think the word cloud really nicely reflects everything we've discussed here, and almost the exciting and hopeful challenge of really transforming the way we understand the purpose of education and the product of it, and what it's about and what it's meant to equip us to do. And I think it's really nice that there's like talk about like climate justice and collaboration, and this is a project that everyone is going to learn and take on together, and it has the power to be a really hopeful and exciting opportunity to help make that really positive impact in the world, and face the challenges that we face.
Yeah, I think you made that point several times, and you're right to do so. this positivity that we have to reintroduce, because a speaker on another webinar recently said that she had been living with anxiety for over 30 years, being educated in a system where only challenges were always highlighted and less so the opportunities. And we have a real responsibility as leaders, to go back to Marc Trudeau's point there, as leaders to also not forget that, okay, we can address and highlight all the challenges, but there are opportunities there that need to be scaled up in order for us to address the issues that we face. Another point, Charles, that I found really interesting that you introduced just now is that those who got us where we are will probably not be those who will get us out of there. But maybe at the same time there as well, we should have some hope and say, if they're trained, retrained, and there's capacity building for them in a new way, maybe they are the ones that can see where they got us, where we got them, and maybe the change agents still, because we have to do it all together. So let's also there look at this hopeful approach to things. Daiva, would you like to react to the word cloud?
I think that everybody said already everything. So I really think that the cloud reflects what we talked about, and the main word diversity is also somehow looks challenging, because it also invites to dig a little bit deeper what we mean by diversity. Also, it is another topic for discussion.
Yeah, very important. I see. Maybe Isabel, you would like to react to the word cloud.
Well, thank you, Eilish, and thanks for all these interesting contributions. I think that we can also later share part of this discussion then, and the resources that have been shared. I don't have anything to add right now, so I just stopped screen sharing. I just wanted to give our speakers and participants a possibility for a last bringing together of ideas at our last round of very short reactions, maybe.
Okay, I think that we have touched on the real opportunities, just from my end, to also summarize a bit things that we can bring to the discussion for a next round later. That transdisciplinarity is something that is definitely applauded by the audience, by the speakers, and the reasons why it is so important have been spelled out very eloquently. So I would like to thank you for your great contributions, and we will also share the slides to accompany the recording of the session. So if you can share these with Isabel Thoman, that will be good for people to have an opportunity to look at those again, and maybe to engage with you. So when you share the slides, if you want to put your contact details there, feel free to do so, but that's your own choice, of course. But it's really good to have heard about these different opportunities that are there, and what also the challenges to really maximize on these opportunities that are available, and what prevents them. So we understand that also at the level of a global association of universities like the IAU, we have more work to do to de-silo the disciplines, really launch further discussions on how to address and maximize on the opportunities that are available out there, and to then also address issues of disciplinary approaches to things, promotion procedures, structures that are in place, and how to challenge those, and take the opportunities offered post-pandemic by the new ways of working together. So that's those conversations we will continue to foster also through the webinar series, but also the various publications that we have. Isabel, do you want to pull up that last slide about some of the links that we can share where people can find more information? And also in particular, the opportunity for everyone to look at the IAU HESD portal, where we will be very pleased to list many more opportunities for engagement. And that's the second bullet point here, the specialized portal for SD-related actions on all of the SDGs and SD at large, where you can contact the Isabel Thoman, submit proposals for inclusion of new activities, and it's rigorously global. So hopefully you will find information there that can inspire further transformation in your universities. It says IAU everywhere, but IAU means for us that it belongs to everyone. So please have a look at those tools and opportunities for engagement. You're free to use them, and we will be very pleased if the voices heard there travel very far. So we will be brought back to the main room. I would like to really thank all the speakers for their great insights. I would like to thank all the participants for their comments in the chat and for the questions raised. And these will inspire further conversations for sure. So thank you very much for your time. And we look forward to seeing what will come out of all the different sessions in the main room in a second. Thank you.
So I believe you can either go back manually or you will be in 1 minute max at 2:45. You will be sent back automatically to the main room with the UNESCO panel. Thank you so much. And yes, we will do our best to share as well.
Isabel, apparently other sessions are still finishing. That's why Mark is taking a little bit of time. And I hope when we click on leave room, we are not ejected completely from
Yes,
from
no, I was
Zoom.
just also copying the chat, and I see that we finished a bit earlier than we thought.
I also informed
could have, yes. I will also go back to the main room now. So
yeah, let's try. I hope, but in any case, we will be able.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had very interesting sessions, and apologies to anyone who had some technical difficulties, who got left in the main room or were assigned to the improper breakout session. Apologies on our behalf. I hope you were able to get to where you wanted to go in the end, and we hope you had a wonderful session with each of our 4 hosts. So thank you very much again. Thank you again. It seems we still have a lot of people who've stayed with us to the end. Very happy to see the engagement from everybody across the world. Now, we just want to take a few moments to have a quick recap, and I'll turn it to the groups, or the 4 groups, or the 4 facilitators in each group to decide, how they want to highlight just a sort of some takeaway thoughts from the session, or final recommendations or key takeaways however they want to present that information from their different sessions. I'll just go at random. Maybe first I'll start with our colleagues from IAU, Ilije and Isabel. If you would like to share any final key takeaways or key messages from your session, or if you have somebody else who would like to step up from your session to share. I'll give you guys the floor from IAU and breakout session 4 first. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. We had a very fruitful conversation, I think. From where I sit, I found it very fruitful. Great contributions from 4 excellent speakers, well prepared, really engaged in explaining the power of transdisciplinarity when it comes to ESD in higher education, and that's HESD. So there were discussions about the value of transdisciplinarity, but also looking at the challenges and barriers, what prevents universities from actually engaging strongly and at the whole of institution level in an inter and transdisciplinary manner. But yet at the same time, there were quite a few strategies that were highlighted as to how it is possible to go about that and what would be possible today. Also very interesting viewpoints on the digital transformation and the opportunities offered, including through artificial intelligence, a newcomer in the field and what that could bring about when transforming, and very good questions as well as to who is engaged at the institutional level or in the education sector, and what is the role for students, with a strong strong presentation by one of the speakers on how that works and can work in different contexts and how to scale up action at global level. All of this with the view to foster very strong competencies for well-educated, highly opened up citizens of the world who will be able to address the challenges we face with an open-minded, critical thinking attitude through the opportunities offered by connecting all the disciplines around. So a lot in there. Maybe if one of the speakers wants to come in, fine, would be great. But I also know we're running out of time. Isabel, maybe say something about the beauty of what came out of the polls, the Mentimeter polls.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to say that we had very great people in the room, and that I think we could have had more time on discussion as well. We had a very diverse group, so diversity, different teaching practices, also taking transformative teaching approaches, I think were stressed a lot in our group. And I think we would also like to stress not only for higher education, but for education more generally, that we see education for sustainable development as a very broad roadmap with the ESD for 2030 for the future, and also as a key enabler for SDG 4 that then enables all the other SDGs in Agenda 2030. So yeah, thank you again, and we look forward to hearing from the other groups.
Thank you once again, Ilije and Isabel. It was a pleasure to have you here and to share your experience and the different speakers that you had. The questions coming through in the chat, yes, rest assured that we will share recordings of the sessions once they're available, and we can help connect you with the facilitators in order to share any materials that have been presented during each individual session. So don't worry, we'll do our best to make sure that we can continue on learning from one another following this session. Thank you. Next, how about we go to Maria and Norita?
Sure, thank you, Mark. Thank you everyone for joining our session. I think, well, at the beginning, we gauge an idea about how people are embedding education for sustainable development, and we can see that most of the participants have already engaged one way or another, which is really positive. We presented the co-designed ESD framework and all the pillars of the framework. And Norita introduced a case study from her university, and we present the different aspects of the framework embedded in the case. I don't know, Norita, if you want to say something about the case and the feedback we received.
Yeah, definitely. So the case that we focused on was the fundamentals of MIS course for the first and second year student, and how we revamped the course to incorporate projects that focus on sustainability. And we work very closely with a local nonprofit organization called the Citizen Foundation that is based in Pakistan. So they open school and build school for the underprivileged. So when I was going around and talked to the participants when we were having a small group discussion today, it's really, really interesting to hear from some of them who were saying that this is kind of a no-brainer for them, because they're coming from a very specific part of the world where poverty is just part of life. But it is very important for us to know that the UAE is a very wealthy country. So most of the students here, they did not have the opportunity or the exposure to the underprivileged students. So when we actually did this project, and when they teamed up with the TCF, the nonprofit organization, and work with school children and see exactly how privileged they are compared to these children, and how girls are very excited to go to school. So that is something that I think very rewarding for us to see. So yeah, this is a great discussion. So I'm very happy with the turnout, and I'm very happy with everybody's engagement as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, Maria and Norita. It was a pleasure having you guys as well, and hope your session was very interactive and engaging. Next, Joss and the OpEduca project. Joss, would you like to give some takeaways or highlights from your session?
Yes, of course. My pleasure, Mark. It would come to no surprise, I think, that we couldn't finish. We got the 70 to 80% actually, and that was due to the fantastic questions we had. And I think a joint feeling that there is a promising way forward beyond politics and programs and further research. The people that joined me in this session, I'm highly respect all their visions, have again proven that if we build on youngsters' future relevant learning, we don't need to wait for system change, new politics, COP28 or COP42. I think that's the biggest takeaway. What people were looking for, and we just couldn't take the last 20%, I'm afraid, is how to do this. But I think my answer would be very clear. Connect regions around the globe in continuous learning on future defining themes. I think there we just broke off, and we're on 90 minutes, we're gone, Mark. So everybody's most welcome to follow up on this discussion. There's much more to say, but again, I feel very privileged and I'm very grateful for this warm interactive contributions I experienced today. So perfect, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Joss. Yes, indeed. Yeah, we didn't quite finish it. You were just trying to finish up, but indeed, there were some excellent questions posed and some nice discussion. Thank you once again. Next and last, Ken and the team from Singapore. Ken,
Yes.
The floor is yours, or you're one of your team members.
One of my team members, Estella, would you like to just help us wrap up? Thank you so much, Mark and colleagues from UNESCO, and thank you to all the guests here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for, I think, showing such great interest in our students' presentations. I think what really characterized the presentation was really the richness of the student projects that can really happen when we as educators are able to empower students in using technology and really harnessing on their local and very personal experiences to resolve a lot of problems that they face personally and that really impacts them. Yeah, so I think that with our project, something that a lot of our participants really resonated with was how this ground up approach really allows us to identify problems within our society, since these are problems that tend to affect people. And also this approach really encourages community participation and collaboration through this idea of open data, encouraging a lot of youth engagement, which raises awareness for a lot of the issues, which comes especially into play with regards to conservation and promoting sustainability. Yeah. So it's really great to hear how we had participants as well who were really interested in collaborating with us to bring a project.
Estella, please continue.
Oh yes, to really bring such student projects and this approach to their own local context. Yeah, so if you are interested in exploring this approach with us, or perhaps our student projects that we presented about, please feel free to contact us as well. Thank you.
Estella, thank you very much. The nice summary from the student coalition and the team that Kenneth has put together. I really love the approach that you guys have done there, working well together to create some innovative practices. So thank you. Once again, we didn't have enough time. I'm sure we could have continued in each session a little bit longer to continue some of the discussions. Apologies, but as we know, we try to keep our on screen and online presence as short and succinct as possible. I thank you once again to all the facilitators who put all their hard work and time into developing these sessions and sharing their time. Very generous of you. So we're pleased to have you as a core part of our ESD-Net and to share your experiences and expertise. Thank you once again to Maria and Norita, to Ken and his team, to Joss, to Ilije and Isabel and the group that you had put together. Thank you very much. Sorry, we're just trying to mute somebody there before as I finish up. Just before we end, we just have one quick announcement. We will be continuing this series again. If we can share the screen there, yes. Just so a quick announcement. The next ESD-Net learning webinar will take place on the 31st of May. We'll have again 4 different breakout sessions led by different facilitators and organizations. We'll have a session by the global schools. They'll talk about ESD in primary education. Then we'll have an NGO that's working in the Maldives, talking about how to build personal capacity in ESD, for example, building personal leadership capacities. Then we'll have a session led by World's Largest Lesson, Project Everyone, talking about different innovative practices. And lastly, colleagues from World Wildlife Fund to talk about climate education in schools and municipalities. So we're very pleased to announce that session on the 31st of May. We will, of course, be sharing this via email or with an announcement. We'll share it on our social media. Please keep the lookout in the coming weeks and months for more details on this and for how to register. So with that, I thank you once again. Thank you again to all the participants. We had well over 200 people overall join us today. It was a pleasure having you, and we hope you learned a lot and had a good time today over the past 2 hours with our different facilitators and participants. Thank you again, and take care, and we'll see you in May. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.